You may have done something recently without thinking twice about it. Maybe you petted another dog. Maybe you played with one. Maybe you gave another dog attention while your own dog was watching. And while it seemed completely harmless to you, your dog may have been paying far more attention than you realized. Welcome to Pawer. Subscribe right now, because some of the reactions you're about to see may completely change the way you look at your dog's behavior. Some dogs become louder, some become clingier, some try to interrupt. And one reaction is so common that most owners mistake it for bad behavior. Today, we're breaking down the most common ways dogs react when they see you giving another dog attention, and what those reactions may actually be trying to tell you. Number 6. Have you ever petted another dog and then suddenly your own dog won't leave you alone? Maybe they start licking your hand. Maybe they lean against your leg. Maybe they sit closer than usual. Or maybe they keep looking for ways to touch you. Most owners see this and think, "Aw, my dog is being extra affectionate." And sometimes that's true. But that may not be the whole story. Because after watching you give attention to another dog, some dogs start looking for reassurance. Not because they stop trusting you, but because they're checking in. They're making sure the connection they have with you is still there. And one of the easiest ways for a dog to do that is through contact. A lick, a nudge, a lean, a head resting on your lap. To most owners, it looks like affection, and often it is. But it can also be your dog's way of saying, "Hey, don't forget about me." The surprising part, some dogs don't stop there. In fact, the next reaction is even harder for owners to ignore. Number 5. At first, it may seem harmless. You walk into another room. A few seconds later, your dog is right behind you. You head to the kitchen. They're there too. You go upstairs. There they are again. Most owners see this and think, "My dog is just being clingy today." But what if they're paying closer attention to you for a reason? Because after watching your attention shift to another dog, some dogs become surprisingly interested in where you're going and what you're doing. Not because they're trying to control you, and not because they're planning anything. They simply don't want to miss what's happening next. So they check in more often, they watch more closely, and sometimes they follow. To most owners, it looks like ordinary clingy behavior. But it can also be your dog's way of reconnecting after a moment that caught their attention. And for some dogs, following isn't enough. That's when they start making their presence impossible to ignore. Number 4. For some dogs, following you around is only the beginning. Sooner or later, they decide simply being near you isn't enough. So they start making sure you notice them. A paw on your leg, a toy dropped at your feet, a nose nudge while you're sitting down. Maybe even a little whine that seems to come out of nowhere. Most owners see this and think, "My dog just wants attention." And honestly, they're not completely wrong. But what many owners don't realize is why the timing matters. Because these behaviors often appear right after your dog has watched another dog receive your attention. And now they want to turn. Not because they're being selfish, not because they're trying to be difficult, but because attention from you is valuable. And after watching another dog receive it, some dogs become much more motivated to get it themselves. That's why the toy suddenly appears. That's why the paw keeps coming back down. That's why your dog seems unusually determined to interact with you. To them, this isn't random behavior. It's an opportunity, a chance to reconnect, a chance to bring your focus back to them. But some dogs don't stop at asking politely, and that's where the next reaction becomes much harder to ignore. Number 3. For some dogs, a paw on your leg isn't enough. A toy doesn't work. Following you doesn't work. So they try something much harder to ignore. They bark. And sometimes the timing couldn't be more obvious. Just moments after you've been giving another dog attention, your own dog suddenly starts barking at you. Most owners assume their dog is being dramatic, or jealous, or simply making noise for no reason. But what if that barking is actually accomplishing exactly what your dog wanted? Think about what happens next. You stop what you're doing. You look at them. You speak to them. Your attention immediately shifts. And that's exactly what many dogs were hoping for. Not because they're trying to manipulate you, but because barking is one of the fastest ways they know to get a response. To your dog, even a quick glance can be rewarding. Even a simple, "What's wrong?" can be enough. And after watching another dog receive your attention, some dogs become much more motivated to get that attention back. That's why what looks like random barking often isn't random at all. It's a reaction. A very noticeable one. But here's where things get even more interesting. Some dogs don't ask for your attention. They don't bark for it. Instead, they take matters into their own paws. And the next reaction is the one most owners see, but almost nobody understands why it actually happens.
Number 2. For some dogs, barking still isn't enough, because eventually they stop asking for your attention and start inserting themselves into the moment. Maybe you're petting another dog, and suddenly your dog walks over. Maybe they nudge your hand. Maybe they push their nose between you and the other dog. Maybe they place themselves right in the middle of the interaction. Most owners laugh when this happens. It looks funny. It looks harmless.
And sometimes it is. But have you ever wondered why your dog felt the need to get involved in the first place? Because from your dog's perspective, something important is happening. Your attention is focused somewhere else. And instead of watching from a distance, they decide to become part of the situation. Not necessarily because they dislike the other dog, and not necessarily because they're trying to start trouble. Sometimes they're simply trying to reconnect with the person who matters most to them. That's you.
So rather than waiting for your attention to come back, they step directly into the conversation. And once they do, it usually works. Your hand stops moving, your eyes shift, your attention changes. Mission accomplished. But some dogs take this one step further. They don't just join the interaction. They try to take control of it. And that's where we come to the number 1 reaction most owners recognize instantly. Number 1, and perhaps the most obvious reaction of all, is when your dog physically puts themselves between you and another dog. If you've ever owned a dog, there's a good chance you've seen this happen. You're petting another dog, everything seems perfectly normal. And then suddenly, your dog walks right over and inserts themselves between the two of you. Maybe they push their head under your hand. Maybe they wedge their body into the space. Maybe they gently nudge the other dog aside. And sometimes, they don't even try to hide what they're doing. Most owners laugh when this happens, because honestly, it can look pretty funny. But from your dog's perspective, this moment may be more important than it appears. Remember everything we've talked about so far. Some dogs become more affectionate. Some follow you around. Some demand attention. Some bark. Some try to interrupt the interaction. But for certain dogs, all of those reactions lead here. Instead of waiting for your attention to come back, they take action themselves. Not necessarily because they dislike the other dog. Not necessarily because they're jealous. And not necessarily because they're trying to dominate anyone. Often, it's much simpler than that. They've noticed that your attention is focused somewhere else, and they want to be part of it. So they do the most direct thing they can think of. They place themselves right in the middle. To many owners, it looks like a dog saying, "Pay attention to me." And in some cases, that's probably not far from the truth. Because attention, connection, and social interaction matter deeply to dogs. Especially when those things involve the person they trust most, you. And that's what makes this reaction so fascinating. It isn't really about another dog. It's about the relationship your dog has with you. The same relationship that's behind many of the behaviors we've covered today. The extra affection, the following, the attention-seeking, the barking, the interruptions, all of them point to the same thing. Your dog notices far more than most people realize. And while every dog responds differently, these moments can give us a fascinating glimpse into how closely our dogs pay attention to the people they care about most. So the next time your dog sees you giving another dog attention, take a moment to watch their reaction. You might notice something you've been missing all along. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to Pawer for more dog behavior breakdowns that help you understand your dog on a deeper level. We'll see you in the next one.